Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your stack of sources and distill it into key insights. Today, our deep dive is a very specific one. We're exploring Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, but not through her own words or like a standard biography. We're looking exclusively through the critical lens of this particular YouTube channel, Mr. Reagan.
That's right. So our mission here is, well, it's really to unpack the specific claims and analyses made about her public image, her policy positions, the rhetoric she uses, political strategies, but all as presented within this specific source material. It's really about understanding how she's perceived and critiqued from, this distinct viewpoint.
Okay, so let's start this deep dive by looking at how a public figure's image gets built up. And then, critique. Using AOC as our case study here, our source, this Mr. Reagan channel, kicks things off with one of her most widely circulated images, right? That photo of her crying at a border fence. Mm-hmm. What specifically did the analysis reveal about the circumstances around that photo?
Okay, so Mr. Reagan's videos allege this incident, which happened before she was even elected, right? It was this photo shoot showing her crying at what looked like a detention facility fence. But the source claims she didn't actually have clearance to get into the facility itself. And was stopped maybe half a mile away, something like that. And crucially, the source says there were no migrants, no refugees or illegal immigrants right there at that specific fence. It was just empty desert.
So not quite what it seemed, at least from this perspective. The photographer apparently claims she cried because of the thought of immigrants. Mm-hmm. But the source we're looking at views this as obviously manufactured, calls it fake, a publicity stunt.
Yeah, that's the take. The videos they suggest her tears looked beautiful, but were ultimately acting. Yeah. And they point out that AOC's team didn't actually release the photos. It was the photographer apparently seeking credit.
Right. So this incident, as interpreted by the source, kind of offers a key insight into how political imagery, even when it's contested, can become, a powerful tool in shaping public perception.
Exactly. It's framed as like pre-planned affected emotion for a specific PR goal from Mr. Reagan's viewpoint. Now, another memorable incident you might recall, AOC's accusation that a woman in a detention facility was told by guards to drink water from the toilet because there wasn't running water in the cell.
Oh, yeah. That was a pretty shocking claim when it first came out. How does the source analyze that one? Are there, alternative explanations presented?
Yes. The source offers a few. Mr. Reagan's analysis highlights that toilets in these centers are often toilet-sink combos, designed for efficiency, but also safety, right? Fewer parts to potentially turn into weapons. So the videos suggest maybe there was a misunderstanding, either by the woman or maybe by AOC herself, potentially, a language barrier issue. The source proposes the woman might have just been complaining about using a combo unit, which maybe AOC then misunderstood as being told to drink from the actual toilet bowl.
Okay.
And Mr. Reagan's skepticism is also, it's rooted in AOC not giving any specific, about this random woman or random guard. The source views it as what it calls a nebulous idea of an imaginary woman, basically used to get sympathy and push for legislation.
It's definitely a core focus of this source material, isn't it? Examining how these narratives get constructed and then, picked apart. Another theme that keeps coming up in these videos is this perception of hypocrisy and inconsistency in her action. The Florida trip controversy seems like a prime example of that.
Indeed. Yeah, Mr. Reagan's videos point out that AOC, who was, a very vocal proponent of mask mandates, lockdowns, she was criticized for visiting what the source calls free Florida during New Year's Eve. This was widely seen as hypocritical, right? Especially given her past criticisms of Governor DeSantis and his, let's say, more relaxed COVID policy. And the source really highlights the irony that at that time, Florida was apparently doing better statistically than lockdown New York.
And how does the source characterize her response to those specific allegations of hypocrisy?
Well, Mr. Reagan's analysis indicates she didn't really respond to the hypocrisy claims directly. Instead, the video suggests she responded to criticism about her boyfriend's sandal, which the source presents as a way to kind of deflect from the more substantive criticism.
Okay.
And this kind of ties into another claim from AOC, that tweet where she said something like, starting to get old, ignoring the very obvious, strange, and deranged sexual frustrations that underpin the Republican fixation on me.
Right, I remember that one. How did the source interpret that?
Well, the source says Mr. Reagan initially thought it was just trolling, but later, according to the source, he came to believe it was maybe a genuine delusional stemming from insecurity and esteem, or maybe potentially a strategic, though probably ineffective, attempt to deter critic by implying they have some kind of sexual obsession.
So a mix of maybe genuine belief and a potentially flawed strategy from this viewpoint. The source even, acknowledges her as physically pretty, but adds, not everyone's taste or his own, and contrasts her with supermodel status to sort of highlight what the channel called the insanely narcissistic nature of her claims. Pretty strong dismissal.
Precisely, yeah. So having looked at the source's take on her public image, let's turn our attention now to what Mr. Reagan's videos say about AOC's actual policy, starting with that really contentious area, immigration and border control.
Okay, let's unpack this. So the source contrasts AOC's complaints during her detention center visits with descriptions of what was supposedly found in supply room. What do those supply rooms allegedly contain, according to this source?
Well, Mr. Reagan's videos describe these rooms having things like diapers, baby wipes, clothing for children, men and women, feminine hygiene products, all available alongside baby formula, crackers, raisins, tuna fish, that kind of stuff. And the source suggests that maybe making conditions uncomfortable is seen as a way to deter further illegal immigrants. That's the viewpoint presented.
Okay.
And when it comes to asylum claims, the source makes a pretty bold claim that the vast majority of amnesty cases are false. It cites an example highlighted in the videos of apparently a 95% fake rate among Russians based on one person's experience mentioned there.
Wow. Okay. And from this perspective, then, what are the proposed solutions for border control?
The source advocates for building a border wall, sees it as a deterrent to prevent dangerous illegal crossings, and it cites the Rio Grande tragedy as, an example of why that's needed. It also suggests this kind of concession, doubling legal refugees maybe in exchange for sending back 2 illegal immigrants for everyone admitted. The overall goal, according to Mr. Reagan's analysis, is to humanely regain control of our borders and also preserve the value of American citizenship.
And what about that really highly charged issue of family separation? How does the source address that policy?
So the source explains that the zero tolerance policy, the one that included family separation, it's comparable in its view, right? Comparable to how a U.S. citizen parent would be separated from their child if they were arrested for a crime, like a DUI or domestic violence. It's presented as sort of a standard procedure within the legal system, just applied in a different context.
So drawing a comparison to domestic legal proceedings. Okay, let's shift gears then to economic and climate policies, specifically the Green New Deal. The source describes AOC's quick-fire panel video as scripted theater, designed to illustrate a point and, quote, waste everybody in Congress's time. What are the specific critiques raised during this theater, according to the source?
Okay, so Mr. Reagan's videos argue there's nothing wrong with corporate pacey funding. That's one point. The source further argues that Donald Trump used his own private money for hush money, distinguishing it from campaign funds, which the source argues made it totally legal because, campaign finance laws mainly govern political contributions, not personal funds for private matters. That's the argument. The analysis also notes that elected officials, AOC included, obviously have the power to draft, lobby, and shape the law, and that there are effectively no limits to what legislation they can influence, even if they're, quote, totally funded by oil and gas or big pharma. And the source confirms, yes, it is legal for a politician to hold stocks in an industry they might then deregulate to, increase their wealth, citing Nancy Pelosi's Visa stock purchase timing with related legislation as kind of a key example there.
That raises an important question.